Hi everyone, my name is Chelli Francois, and today I will be talking about birth defects caused by thalidomide in the 1960s. I originally heard about this disaster on an episode of Grey's Anatomy a couple years ago, so when I saw it as a presentation topic option on the list, I was instantly drawn to it. And I couldn't wait to explore this devastating topic, and I'm excited to share my research with you. So, thalidomide was originally used as a sedative, but was soon prescribed to pregnant women to treat pregnancy symptoms such as nausea. When these women started to give birth to babies with deformities, it wasn't clear what exactly could have caused these deformities. In fact, these birth defects weren't linked to thalidomide until 5 years later. One reason for this late discovery is that the deformities that were caused by the drug were very similar to genetic conditions that usually affect limb development, such as Liebenberg syndrome. Scientists finally linked the deformities in babies to thalidomide because they noticed that when pregnant women consumed thalidomide, the effects of it only occurred 20 to 37 days after contraception. After this time period, thalidomide had no effect on the fetus. Over here, I have a picture of thalidomide cases over the years. So how exactly does thalidomide cause deformities in babies? Well, the question of how thalidomide causes deformities in babies wasn't answered until 60 years after the thalidomide disaster. Researchers recently found out that the thalidomide drug aids in the degradation of the SALL4 gene. The SALL4 gene aids in the instructional production of tissue and organ formation during embryonic development. Thalidomide completely removes the SALL4 gene from the cells, resulting in a variety of deformities in babies such as absent or shortened limbs and malformed hands and feet. The photo shown demonstrates how thalidomide degrades the SALL4 gene during embryonic development in comparison to development of a baby with no thalidomide present. The thalidomide disaster poses as an environmental health issue because unborn babies were being exposed to thalidomide because their mothers were taking it without knowing that it would negatively impact their children when they were born. Babies who were exposed to the thalidomide as a fetus were born with the absence or shortening of their limbs, malformed hands and feet, damaged ears and eyes, facial disfigurement, and even brain and skeletal damage. Over here, I have some pictures displaying some of these deformities in babies. So who was affected by thalidomide? Well, approximately 10,000 to 20,000 babies were affected by the thalidomide drug. This estimate is not exact. It is not certain exactly how many babies were affected by thalidomide. Some sources even believe that about 100,000 babies could have been affected by thalidomide, especially because it was a drug that was being sold under different names. Over 10,000 babies died at birth due to the effects of thalidomide. As of 2011, fewer than 3,000 babies who were affected by thalidomide survived. So what was the impact of the thalidomide disaster? Well, the thalidomide disaster marked a huge turning point in the pharmaceutical industry because it changed the way drugs were tested and distributed all around the world. Nobody wanted another nightmare like this to happen ever again, so drug testing became stricter and the rules of distribution became stricter as well. Many babies died, and the few thousand that survived had harder lives due to their deformities and illnesses caused by the drug. Doctors were required to report any side effects patients have or have had to different drugs, and the public was also encouraged to report any side effects that they have or have had to any drug. As for the outcomes of the thalidomide disaster, the parents of the children affected by the thalidomide drug created a group called the Thalidomide Society, which is a support group for all the victims of thalidomide and their families. This group helped spread awareness of the effects of thalidomide on babies and fought for justice for the victims of the thalidomide disaster. Millions of dollars in reparations were given to the families affected by thalidomide worldwide. Drugs that were intended for human use couldn't be approved solely on the basis of animal testing. It had to be tested on humans too. Drugs that were intended for pregnancy use had to have solid evidence that it was a safe drug to use during pregnancy. Women who wanted to use thalidomide after the disaster had to be on birth control. In addition to that, many acts were passed worldwide that made the distribution, marketing, and sale of drugs stricter. For example, The 1968 Medicines Act, enforced in the UK, required drugs to have distinctions between drugs only available in pharmacies, prescription drugs, and drugs available for the sale for the general public. Finally, as a result of the thalidomide disaster, doctors were required to report any side effects that patients have or have had to different drugs to the yellow card scheme. The public was also heavily encouraged to report any side effects they have or have had to any drug to the yellow card scheme as well. Here I have some questions about the thalidomide disaster that I could not find answers to during my research. The first question I have is, when thalidomide was being sold under different names, did people know that it was thalidomide that they were being sold? I ask these questions because I wonder if mothers were being sold thalidomide without knowing that it was thalidomide even after the disaster. My second question is, during the 5-year time period when researchers did not know that thalidomide was the cause of the deformed babies being born, did mothers avoid using thalidomide drug to cure their pregnancy symptoms because they suspected that the thalidomide was the root of the problem? Or did they not suspect thalidomide to be the cause of the birth deformities and continue to use thalidomide anyways? My third question is, did pregnant women resort to using alternative drugs to help with their pregnancy symptoms? If so, then what were these alternative drugs, and did these drugs have any effects on them? I ask this because I assume that if pregnant women had suspicions that thalidomide was not good for them, that they tried looking for other drugs to help with their pregnancy symptoms. So I'm curious to know if these alternative drugs worked or if they came with other problems. And finally, these are all of my references. I hope you all enjoyed this presentation and hopefully learned something new from it. Bye.